What's up, y'all? Today, I'm going to be talking you through how to do one of my favorite exercises, the ring muscle. Alright, let's do it. The muscle up is a very challenging movement and can require some specific training, especially on the rings. There are three main parts: the pull, transition, and push. Although it can be tricky to put them all together smoothly, it's a super rewarding movement to finally achieve. Now, the first and most important thing that you need to learn for the ring muscle up is how to have proper false grip. So, false grip involves having your wrists on top of the ring. Rather than hanging from your fingers like you normally would, you're going to karate chop the ring and get your wrist on top, just like this. And that is going to allow you to pull the rings through to your chest, right? So if you were to just hold it normally, you could pull to about your chin, your neck, maybe the top of your shoulders. You don't have the range of motion to be able to transition through. But if you have your wrists on top of the rings, you can pull through to your chest and be able to transition through that movement. Now, the first step in learning false grip is going to be the false grip hang. So I know when I first started trying to get false grip, I could not have full range of motion. It was almost impossible. When I first started, I had to hang like this with my arms slightly bent, biceps and everything engaged. As you spend more and more time hanging and putting the weight into your wrists, you'll be able to go from this to lowering down and getting that full range of motion. Now, it's going to take a while, and when you first start, it's okay to just grab the rings, have that false grip, and just practice being here, just holding it, right? If you can do some scap shrugs eventually, that's great. But as long as you're just putting the weight into the wrists, that's a good start. Now, once you've got your false grip hang down, the next step is going to be to start practicing your false grip pull-ups. So getting your false grip and just pulling up, coming down. Readjust your false grip because it'll be really hard at first. Good grip on the rings and pull up, come down. Now, once you start to feel comfortable doing those pull-ups and maintaining false grip throughout, you're going to want to start to develop a more explosive pull-up, trying to pull the rings all the way through to your chest. What you're going to want to think about with the muscle up is keeping the rings close together all the way through to your chest and then trying to separate them out. So, get your false grip, bring the rings close. I used to tap them when I first started just to keep them close and just practice pulling up. And if you want to explode a little bit with your hips, have a little bit of a kick, that's going to help you in the beginning to transition. So just high pulls. Just like that. Once you've built a little bit of an explosive false grip pull-up, the next step is going to be to control that negative and try to be able to engage all the way at the top and hold. So what you're going to do, get your false grip, bring them up, and try to hold right here with my wrists at my chest. Just hold this position 5-10 seconds, and then slowly lower. Now what this is going to do eventually is allow you to have a much smoother transition as you're able to control the rings all the way through that range of motion. All right, now the next step and the most difficult part of the muscle up is the transition. So the transition is where you go from doing a pull-up into a dip. Most can do a lot of pull-ups, a lot of dips, but being able to transition from that point requires a high pull, a low dip, and having the body awareness to get in between it. Now, at first, undoubtedly, you'll be utilizing the kip, which is exploding your hips up in order to lean your shoulders forward and catch yourself in the dip and press. But as you gain more depth in your dip and more height in your pull-up, you'll be able to start to transition smoother and smoother. Now, another way to make that transition a little bit smoother is to utilize a band like this. you're gonna do, take the band in your hands and make sure you're gripping the rings nice and strong with the band. You're gonna come up, start from a dip position, and sit on top of the band. Now from here, you're going to lower and transition. You can just practice this transition just like this. Lower, transition. And this is gonna help your transition to be very smooth. And then eventually, you can try it without the band. Another great exercise to practice that transition is going to be this one here. You'll lower the rings to they're about at your armpit level. If you're unable to lower the rings that much, like myself, then you can go ahead and grab a chair just to make sure that you can get the rings at about armpit level. Then what you're going to do is take your false grip, come down, and just go through the motion with still having some weight in your feet. So you'll go up, transition through, and push. And as you go through and do this, you can practice putting more and more weight into your wrists and less weight into your feet. Another exercise that's going to help you to get the transition down is this one here. You're going to offset the rings by maybe 1.5 to 2 feet, depending on your height. You're going to take a false grip with your bottom hand, and you're just going to take a regular grip with your top hand. Now what you're going to be able to do is transition with the lower hand while just assisting and pulling with the top hand, like this. So you can transition through. You still have all the weight in your wrist. You're able to act like it's a real muscle up on one side, but help to take some of the pressure off and aid your transition with that top hand. And of course you can switch sides, practice with the other arm. That's going to really help you to feel the full pressure of the false grip and what you feel like the transition of the muscle up with still being able to assist yourself with your other arm. Alright, next we're going to want to practice the top portion of the muscle up, which is the dip. So, if you have a chair or you can lower the rings to an appropriate level, you're going to come up, get yourself above the rings, and start to practice this dip. Now, with the muscle up, obviously you're going to want a very deep range of motion to be able to transition. So you want to train yourself to be able to come really, really deep and make sure you have the proper shoulder mobility where this isn't going to hurt you or cause an injury. And then as you press for best practice, you're going to practice a ring turnout to build that straight arm strength. So at the top of the dip, turn the rings out, come deep, push, turn out. And then the best thing you could do after a set of dips is going to be a slow, controlled negative. So controlling those rings all the way through. Now, doing the negative is actually going to be more beneficial to you than doing an actual muscle up, since your muscles are more engaged during eccentric motion than they are during concentric motion. So every set of dips, you should always lower, nice and slow. Reinforce that false grip, reinforce the range of motion for your pull-up, and reinforce your ability to transition. It'll be the best thing for you. All right, I hope you got some useful tips out of this video, and you'll be well on your way to getting your first ring muscle up. If you have any questions or anything you'd like to see in a future video, go ahead and leave it in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see